thanks for tuning in. Before we start the show, we have an announcement to make. We got gear for you.
Yeah, due to popular demand, we've got some proper nice T-shirts with our famous logo on the front. We've even got 2 style of caps. We've got the trucker cap and the best-selling lazy slouch adjustable cap. And more importantly, we've got a beer mug, a whiskey glass, and a coffee mug to go. So you can be listening to our podcast no matter what you're doing, whether you're having a cigar at night or you're on your way to work. So you can pick up whatever you like there. Mike, where can they find it?
All you got to do is go to freakstrength.com/shop, freakstrength.com, click on the shop. Once you click on shop, pictures are going to show up of our merchandise. Click those pictures right there. There you have it. Mike and Brooker Show merchandise right there. Scroll right down. Order whatever you can to support the show. Show everyone that you are avid listeners of the Mike and Brooker Show.
Yeah, show yourself as an original disciple of the show. And guys, we just want to thank you once again for all the love and support. It means the world to us. But in order for us to keep doing this, we need to keep receiving feedback. So no matter what it is, good, bad, or ugly, we're open to everything. We want to keep delivering the best information possible. So thanks once again for all the love, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thanks, guys. And we are rolling. All right, we got my boy Kevin Love, the Kevin Love, Mr. fucking, how you doing, Kevin Love?
How you doing?
Rocking his Stone Cold shirt. We're rocking our matching Stone Cold shirts together.
Tweedledum and Tweedledee over here.
Oh, yeah. It's a gimmick to get more people to tune in.
We need it. We need all the help we can get right now, man.
Yeah, bro. So have you seen any podcasts yet?
Have I seen any? Yeah. No, I have. I think you sent me, I mean, listen, you sent them all. Like, you're an incredibly thorough person just to the core. So I'm not going to say I've watched them in their entirety, but yeah, I've watched, quite a bit. So I'm always curious what, especially when something's starting out new, like what I'm going to be into, what I can learn. And from you guys, especially like knowing you guys the past couple of years, just like trying to pick people's brains in a space I want to know more about. Like, my curiosity, I've always thought, is my weapon. And I know that I'm never going to know everything. I don't pretend to be an expert. So I want to listen to the people that in this space know much more than me. So it's interesting.
So I'm going to dive right into this shit. What was it like for you growing up? At what point did you know? I mean, dude, you're almost a guaranteed Hall of Famer, right? Gold medal, NBA championship. It's you were player of the year in high school. Were you player of the year in college or some shit like that? Like what did you get in college? Prep All-American?
I was first team All-American.
Right? Like, at what point did you know, like, man, like I could pull this shit off. I can do this.
So I have 2 answers to that. When I was really young, it's funny. Like you've met Ernie, right? Mm-hmm. And like his family, like that whole Italian thing is all like, yeah. But how you don't? So I remember his dad drove me home. We live right next to each other. He's my best friend, and he asked me, and he had been around Hall of Famers as well. He had, coached and played with Blazers, former Blazers, and like everybody up and down the West Coast. So he was driving me home from like my first day of preschool, so the community arts preschool with Ernie, right? And he goes, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he's always telling this story about me saying, well, I'm going to be in the NBA like my dad was. Like, I always had it in my mind. That was always my one track. That was always my North Star. I always had blinders on. Like, that was my singular focus. But it wasn't until I was in 9th grade. So it was my freshman year of high school. I was like, I'm for sure, God forbid any injuries, any setbacks like this, I'm making it to the NBA. I just had this feeling. I knew that I was going to be tall, athletic genes on both sides of the family. And I just had the skills, the footwork, and honestly, the drive and the work ethic to want to be, in a certain place. I brought this out the other day. I was doing a speech, a commencement speech, and I brought it in here. This is from high school. And it's the USA Today, like, All-American team. And I was player of the year. And this guy that for the USA Today, I don't see his name on here, but he'd asked me, he said, you know, where do you want to be in 10 years? And my answer was, where did it go? Enjoying a successful career in the NBA and having won an NBA championship. And literally like 9 years after that came out, I, you know, won an NBA championship, and it was cool. So like I said, I had the foresight, but for me, I was like, this is how I'm going to get there, setting the goals, and you have to have a little bit of luck as well.
Yeah. So,
For sure.
so knowing that when you were younger and realizing it as a freshman, right? We had Devin McCourty on. We just released his episode, and he had talked about, you know, possibly not even playing for Rutgers by the time he was a sophomore.
Right.
And it was, and he didn't even get recruited really by anyone out of high school. This guy's a first-round draft pick. Ended up, you know, he's a possible Hall of Famer. Guy's won 3 Super Bowls, 5 appearances. Like, he's a stud.
Mm-hmm.
And he had no idea really until his junior year that, like, holy shit, I can make this happen, right?
Yeah.
But he still worked his ass off the whole time. Now, knowing, and I know you now for those of you that don't know about Kevin's work ethic, I mean, this guy's virtually second to none. Everything I do, and he's got like a compulsive personality in certain things that if I tell him that this is on the list today, he has to accomplish it. So I intentionally do not tell him what we're doing throughout the day. That way it doesn't make him feel like I have to do this and I'm cheating myself, right? So knowing that there's certain things and knowing your personality and what it takes to actually succeed at a high level, what was your work ethic like when you were younger? Like, at what point were you ever slacking off? And then at what point did you like, holy shit, like I got to put this together? What was it like for you growing up and knowing this type of pressure to put on yourself?
Well, 2 things. I was very fortunate to have the presence of mind when I was young. It's because I was so focused on basketball and attaining those goals. Was like I looked at my dad and saw like the success and the failures he had, and was able to, you know, kind of see how that pendulum would swing and weigh all of those and say, okay, I can learn from all of that. And my dad was good about that too. Like he was a driving force for me, but also, you know, again, I get back to my best friend, like his grandfather, he's 5th generation Italian American, and his family just worked so incredibly hard. So being around that all the time and just immersing myself in like that culture and that family, I just wanted to I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to work harder because of them. Like even, you know, I've told Ernie this before, is like, and I think you do this for a lot of your friends and the people you're around. Like I work and I, you know, want to prove myself because I want you guys to be proud of me. Like it's almost like a large part of me is doing it for them, right? But no, I think the work ethic was just always there for me. But until I had somebody say, hey, listen, like this is how you do certain things, because I needed fine tuning. I didn't know how to like lift weights. I didn't know you know, how to take care of my body even. It's something that I learned when I got to the NBA better as well. Didn't learn how to eat better until this time. But in high school, I needed to learn how to lift. And I was very thankful that I was playing travel basketball and I had the opportunity to work with a guy named Jason Fawcett in Portland, Oregon, who my last 2 years of high school was working with me 5-6 days a week, training, conditioning, doing all of that. So I always had it there. I just needed a little bit of help, because if you can always, I can ignite the flame, but I need somebody to like, you know, waft it to make it, you know, maybe for me, it was always there for me, but it's always great. It's different when like I'm working out solo as opposed to like us being in the gym, because there's just like that much more focus. There's that, you know, less amount of lag time in between sets. It's, hey, we're on the clock. And I'm so, you know, I'm like that. I'm OCD. I have to get everything done. If we leave something out, I'll feel like I didn't get the best out of that day. And that'll, you know, mentally fuck me up. So it's always been there, but it's been needed to be fine-tuned even throughout my entire career. I just abruptly, craziest thing, side note, my 12th year just finished, like out of nowhere, right? Like this is an unprecedented year for a lot of people, but it's crazy because an average lifespan of an NBA player is a little over 4 years. And I'm just like, boom, game's taken away from you like that. And 12 years in, it's really wild.
And talking now about you being 12 years in, I mean, how are you feeling in general? Are you feeling healthy? Are you feeling motivated? Are you excited still?
I mean, super motivated, super excited. I think there's times in your career where you try to either accumulate certain things or you try to, reach certain milestones or accolades. And for me, I think, especially get with Mike, and you guys have talked about this, and you were there. I mean, when I first got there, like my back, especially when I got to the Cavs too, like it was my knee. There was something wrong with my knee and my back. And I think that like unilaterally was throwing me off. And just how we had worked even the first 3 weeks, it got me really excited for what the possibilities were. And I think that gives me a lot of energy as well. Because if you've ever had an injury or something nagging, or even I'll take the back, for instance, like I've seen my dad deal with it his entire life. Like it can make you very, very depressed, and your body can kill your mind. So for me, it was like getting out of bed and, having to take so long to get my back right, or I'd have spasms, or I'd have things like that. Like I really needed to, work differently. But I think that really inspired me to achieve more, to be more, play as long as I possibly can. Because as Mike knows, like I'm going to squeeze everything out of this that I possibly can. If I can add more years onto my career, like that gets me going. And he knows, like I've invested so much in every modality and something for my body away from the court that, I'm hopefully allowing myself to slow down the burning of that candle at both ends. But still so much to do, so much to, would love to win another championship, potential U.S. gold medal next year if the Olympics do happen, I mean, so there's a lot of things there team wise, and then individually, I think I kind of see and feel where I'm at the beginning of the year, and then set goals. But 12th year I just ended. I don't know what 13 is going to be, but I'm sure we'll map those out.
So taking it back again, your schedule, right? When you were younger, playing basketball was, how did you look at that as basketball was fun, basketball was a job, basketball was both? Because you knew this was, number one, this was your goal. Number two, this was a meal ticket, right? Like you saw the potential. I mean, your dad was in the NBA, so you knew what could happen. And now the way the league was growing as well, like what the potential could possibly be. I mean, could you have imagined that it would be like this? But I mean, you saw like, this is like your way to take care of the people that you love, right? Like what was your schedule like? What was your work ethic like when you were younger and you would realize like, shit, like I can start making money from this? Like what did that turn into to you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the number one motivating factor for me was, and really still is, centered around that idea of family, but not only blood. It's like loyalty. Those that have been loyal to me, it's like what they say, blood makes you related, loyalty makes you family. Like I really do believe that. So like that, I've been a person who hasn't let a lot of people in my life, but those who are around me, like, they know that I have so much love for them and would take a bullet for them. Right. But my main motivator was, and the only route I really saw to happiness in my life was to make it to the NBA and to financially take care of my family and, those close around me. Like that was the only route that I saw. And I don't know, it's crazy. Like I didn't really have a backup plan at all. So that was really, I mean, it drove me and drove me and drove me and drove me. So I was like, if I just keep achieving, if I just keep on this straight and narrow path, like there's so much that I can do. And that sole purpose of just making it probably isn't going to be enough, but we'll deal with that when we get there. So for me early on, it was just that motivating factor, like I said, of those close to me and making it and making them proud, but also financially taking care of them.
And on that path to the NBA, before you got there and you got the big, payday, what was the biggest challenge that you faced, or what did you have to overcome? Did you have any big adversity that you had to get over?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have. Honestly, I don't think you have to have adversity, right? Like there has to be adversity. And for me, it's. I mean, been dealing with injuries and also, losing teammates or just having absolute turmoil and chaos depending on the situation, the team, things like that. And I had injuries when I was young too. I think I've always had the right mind, and I think it's something that you can learn as well, but you have to attack and reassess when you have injuries. It's like so many people are like, shit, I had this injury and I'm not going to get to where I want to be, or this year's a wash or anything, but you have to look at it as opportunity. And for me, I'd always look at it like, okay, how can I get better, in my brain and watch more film, or how can I break down film? Who do I need to watch? Do I need to for me, do I need to watch more, Shaq or Charles, but like all these guys that we see on TV commentating now, I need to watch more of them. I need to, watch film. So I was like dialed in on that early on. And I reassessed my body. I said, what does the rest of my body need in order to like even itself out? And that was, if I had more time, I could think of more things, but that's what sticks out to me is like, just, even if it's little nagging injuries, just taking a step back and saying, okay, what do I need? How am I going to pass this mirror test so that when I get on the court, nobody can stop me. Nobody can mess with me.
It's cool.
What was your motivating factor when you were on the court? Like when you step on the court, what did you think? Like, how Jordan sit there and he just find an enemy and he would just abuse his enemy. What was it for you? I mean, when I played baseball, I mean, I wasn't like, yo, I'm gonna fucking kill this guy in front of me. Like, not everyone's like that. I just liked hitting the shit out of the ball. Like that was fun to me. I couldn't wait for my next at bat. Like what motivated you?
I think continuing to add to my game, knowing that's what makes it fun. Like in anything in life, that you can get better, like every day, or you can get smarter, or you can have better footwork if you lose athleticism. Like we've seen a lot of great players do that, like move out to the 3-point line, like I've done. And thankfully, I had a father who played in the NBA who also had the foresight to look at guys that were 7 feet tall, or 6'8", all the way to 7 feet tall, stepping out and shooting threes, like at a very high clip. But for me, walking onto the court, really, win, lose, or draw, depending on how I played, I just wanted people to be playing the Timberwolves or be playing the Cavs or UCLA or my high school traveling team or my high school team in Lake Oswego and say, man, like this, I got to play this guy tonight. Like just be, like there's certain players where you're just like, this guy's relentless. I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get put on the ground. I'm going to have a tough night. I'm going to get exhausted. It's going to be like, you're going to have to battle if you're going to play against me. And that was what I wanted. Just strictly mindset. It wasn't like I'm putting up 30 and 20 on this guy. It happened. But for me, I just wanted people to be like, oh man, like I'm gonna have my hands full tonight. Like that idea. It's like I mentioned Charles Barkley just really quick, but like I can imagine people walk into the game against him and he's just relentless. He's just nonstop, and he rubbed people the wrong way because of that. But I was just, and that helped me early on, because the way that I gained minutes early in my career was to rebound. And, for being 6'9", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", like rebounding the basketball for me at that size, especially because at my position, power forward, and then you look at center, it just could, like the average height of a power forward now is like 6'10". So it's big, really big. So I'm like right on the cusp. And I was like, I'm just going to rebound. I'm going to be absolutely relentless on the offensive and defensive boards. And that is how I'm going to get my playing time. And that's also going to allow me to kind of have that bravado and mindset that, hey, people are going to hate playing against me. And that's like a huge, huge advantage. They know that they're going to have to bring it.
And so how do you sort of prepare yourself to get yourself into that mindset? Does it automatically happen just because of the repetition of you doing it? Or do you have a certain routine or ritual that you do before you go out?
Always routines. And it's funny because my rituals are more recovery based, like things that are like almost, like you know, obviously they're therapy, but it's just like, it's almost like a spiritual thing for me, the ritual. And that's like taking care of my body so that I can go do it again. But that's why this, you know, COVID-19 has been so crazy, because I'm such a creature of habit. Like Mike said, like if I write things down, like I have to do them. I have to check it off. I have to get it done. So like being a creature of habit and having routine is what I've based, you know, everything leading up to my performance on. So like everything, and if something gets knocked off or it's not punctual, it's not like right on time, I've allowed myself to give a little bit of a break, because I've always had that perfectionist mentality. But just having that routine, I think, is so key and such an advantage and such a weapon, because I was like, if I'm able to get all of these things done in order to get my body right, it's going to give me energy. It's going to keep my mind right. And I've just always had that. The only limiting factor there would be if I'm, you know, dealing with a nagging injury or something of that sort. But if I feel good, I'm good to go.
And even still, say you got like, I mean, of course, you're never completely fit when you go out, right?
Right.
Just due to the nature of it, or you couldn't sleep the night before because of whatever. How then do you ramp yourself up? Do you give yourself a little slap? You look yourself in the mirror? Like, what do you do to get yourself wired up? Or are you not a sort of very aggressive type guy? You just sort of get into the zone by playing?
It depends, because if I'm on the way to a game, like a lot of people listen to like and I used to do this too, like, and it worked for me. Like my hyped up music, I would listen to everything I was, you know, growing up, and that would get me super hyped to play. It'd be everything from like hip hop to like Nirvana and heavy metal. Like I mean, Mike, you know that we listen to all sorts of music depending on the day, because it's so like, you know, it's such a mood thing. In order to get the best out of yourself, having music in my family, I've always had that be part of my, you know, routine, or leading up to a game, even post game. And that allows me to like, but I listen to a lot softer stuff now, leading up to about 30 minutes on the clock. You know, I have my little caffeine, I do my breathing exercise. You know, I've tried to meditate a lot more, even if it's like, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes of just like deep breathing, getting that energy right, you know, taking my mind off of things in order to hone it back in. But there's different ways that, and, you know, I will typically, especially during the season, I'll ask Mike and say, hey, listen, like, you know, my legs are shot right now. And he'll give me, you know, this is what we're going to do. Or we need extra time to warm up. You don't need to be shooting shots, you know, out there because your game's tight right now. How's your game feeling? So like a lot of questions, a lot of banter, a lot of back and forth, a lot of communication. And I think that helps. It more so than just like, hey, this is our routine. This is what we're going to do. These are the different exercises. This is, you know, X, Y, and Z, how much you need to do. Like, I think it's a form of almost therapy in that way. And performance, enhancing performance is like, hey, we trust in the work we've put in. We trust in, you know, what we've done and built up to this point. And I think that allows for confidence and say, okay, I got this, no matter how I'm feeling.
Sure. It's actually been so nice because, I mean, obviously I was out there when you and Mike first met each other. And just to say as well, I've always been out there, Mike, when you've got your big clients that come through, right? And
Mr. Lucky.
Exactly, Mr. Lucky. And one of the things that was really nice was to see that sort of relationship build between the two of you. And obviously it's gone to new heights. What's some of the things that Mike's really taught you or added to your, not just to your game, but maybe to your health? Like how's the experience been with this prick?
It's been great. I mean, obviously, like I was saying earlier, like came in with like a nagging back injury. I wasn't able to move freely. And then I think just like opening up my chest and my back and my hips and just that attention to detail. And it's more than just, it's more than just training. Like I mentioned that relentless curiosity. Like we, seldom, outside of obviously during the summer and during the season, we have to check in when it comes to, working and performance and how I'm feeling that day. But like, we just pick each other's brains about everything. And what I love most about Mike, and I hate that he's listening to this right here, but he knows this. Like if he doesn't know something, first of all, he's very fucking opinionated. But if he doesn't know something, he will make sure that he gets it right. He will fact check. He will make sure that everything is spot on, because first of all, he has to be right. It's just who he is. But he will go at whatever length. He will go whatever length in order to fact check and make sure that something's right. And that applies to everything we do with the body as well. So I think that attention to detail is huge. It's paramount in everything that he does. And in that line of work, I truly believe that you need that. So I think it's allowed me to be more attention to detail as well. And I have to be I'm like a shit communicator, especially when you're not like living in the same area as me. You could ask my friends like that live in Portland. They're like, hey bro, like, can you text back? It's been 3 days. Like, it's just, you're not in my daily life. It's typically hard for me to like have that. So I've tried to a lot of the time to be a better communicator. And I think that has truly helped as well. But I mean, I don't think we have enough time here on the show to like break down exactly what, we had done, because we do testing, we do, a lot of variables in the work that we do, a lot of like, trying to get my true running form right. Cause I've been such a plotter my whole career. And all of this, everything that we work towards is trying to, get the most out of right now, but like elongate my career so that I can play as long as I want to and feel good. Because we say, as so long as I'm feeling good and I can shoot and I can rebound, you're going to stay in this league. And that I think has been the idea for us from day one, is like, how long can we, like, how much can we get out of this?
Sure.
Yeah.
And technically, you should keep getting better if your body's good, because you're getting wiser at the game.
Exactly. You get wiser. You learn to use your head more. You break down more film. But also, I've always, if I feel good, I'm going to perform well. I mean, I think that's part of it. And we look good too. But I truly believe, like, if I'm feeling good, like, and my legs feel good, but like I'm just loose all the way through, I'm going to go out there and have even that much more energy to go out there and perform. Because I think it is very limiting, and especially, you're traveling to different time zones, your circadian rhythm's off, you might have not gotten the best night's sleep, or your inflammation's way up, or you had a hard practice that day and you're going into a back-to-back, like stuff like that. It's like there's so much there that can throw off you feeling even okay. But we've manipulated and found different ways to, kind of combat that, even if it's, really, we've messed a lot with sleep. He introduced me to Harpreet and everybody at Oura Ring. Like, I am religious with how, I wear that ring every single night. And we, especially during the season, if you would have done it last night, it would have been sure. Actually, I got decent REM sleep, but every night during the season, pretty much every single night, unless it's like an off day or whatever, we are tracking sleep and making sure that that's something that we continue to work with and manipulate, because I've always been a terrible sleeper. It's probably because I have the anxiety that I have, and even with medication, it's still been tough for me to get real quality deep sleep, and that's really what I need in order for my body to recover. So that's just a one thing, but a major thing that we've tried to manipulate and work on is sleep.
Yeah. I think by the way, thank you very much for the kind words. I'm aware that I am not the most, the easiest person to deal with. In fact, I think all of episode 3 was essentially dedicated to you, Hogan, and Frankowski.
Oh, I listened to that.
It was you 3 guys essentially that conversation was prefaced off of.
How about fighting Hogan?
where a personality like mine is very difficult to deal with, and I need to learn how to phrase things. So, Kevin, thank you for putting up with me. But to your credit, I mean, with a guy that you say like, hey, I have a Wi-Fi personality. If you're not within Wi-Fi range, right? Like it's tough to get in touch.
Totally agree. Yeah.
But
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, but we text virtually every single day, and a day that we do not text seems like a lonely day to me. So we do a very good job of keeping the communication and building that rapport and constantly developing and growing the relationship. I think those are very important things. But the most important thing, there's 2 things I think that I did for you that I genuinely think changed the path of your career and your life. One was the debilitating back pain. I really think that was linked to a big part of your anxiety, depression, as well as your ability to stay healthy within the season. And
Everything
also,
was just off. It was just,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And the other thing, sleep. When I first met him, he was getting 4 minutes of deep sleep a night. So I looked at it. I said, no wonder the poor fucking guy's going crazy. No wonder he's depressed. No wonder you can see what the hell's, because mental health healing occurs in the fucking sleep, and this guy isn't getting any of it. So the tweaks we made, what did we do? It wasn't anything outrageous, but hey, limit the wine before bed, right? We cut at first for a while. We cut out all wine whatsoever. And then once you started getting a handle on things, we were able to reintroduce it here and there, and it didn't have as big of an impact. But we made sure to prioritize sleep as best as possible. So whatever was gonna, and didn't we switch up your second to last meal and your last meal, where your last meal originally was a huge steak, and then I said switch it up, do the salmon, smaller piece of salmon, and do the huge steak 2 meals before, right?
Also, yeah, like post game meal as well, because you know, there's not much you can do with that, but you know, we tried to keep it as, I mean, like vegan based, plant based as we could, so my body could break it down before I went to sleep. Because whenever I go to sleep, I feel like most people with a heavy stomach like that, they're typically not going to get great deep sleep or great sleep, quality sleep overall. But I think another thing we manipulated was, again, outside of the game day, because I like to have caffeine when I'm, you know, going to perform like 45, 60 minutes out from getting on the floor, was limit that, you know, to early afternoon. And even at Oura Ring now, they're like, cut it off at 11, have your second coffee. And I've been trying to do that, and I feel actually much, much better. And that's hard for me. It's just like the wine was hard for me.
Yeah.
Because that's like my vice is I'm a huge coffee snob, Portland, Oregon guy, a huge wine snob. And that was something I was just like, I'd rather perform. I'd rather, you know, my muse, praying to my muse, which is basketball. Like I had to do right by the game, and the game will always, you know, back to you if you just chase it and you put whatever it is into it.
So to segue into it, with the anxiety, with the mental health stuff that you're, I mean, everywhere for, you can't look any which way without seeing Kevin Love mental health. I mean, you're fucking killing it. And both you and McCourty are up for the Muhammad Ali humanitarian of the year award, right? Like that's fucking sweet. You know, that's an awesome, that's a huge honor.
Amazing
like,
that you have such great character client. I'm kidding.
No, bro, I am so incredibly fortunate to be around guys of high character like you and like the McCourty brothers that do so much for communities, so much for families, so much for entire, dude, people like you can change the paths of people's existence, the entirety of their existence, just based off of certain, I mean, coping mechanisms that you're posting on the Kevin Love Fund page, right? What is it, at Kevin Love Fund? Is that what the, right? Dude, just those coping strategies that you're posting in those little boxes can change the paths of people's lives if they just do this breathing thing. And then you guys also did stuff with Headspace. You do so much stuff to benefit people that you don't realize the impact that you're genuinely making on generations of children and adults. That is humongous. So regardless of however you're feeling throughout your day, I mean, you need to understand, bro, I am helping change lives. You're helping the betterment of society, and everyone around you is benefiting because of your existence. That is a very important thing for you to understand. Like, it should feel good. That is fucking awesome, bro. I'm so proud to be associated with you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, I think it's funny you say that, because when I am having a rough day and it's you know, looking very meek or just dark, because that cloud for me can come quick and stay. But I just remember, like, it sounds, cliche, or it sounds like a fluff piece. But for me, seriously, like, I think about, because it is such I don't think anything robs you more of your human potential than having mental illness and feeling hopeless. Like, I think at the root of all anxiety, depression, mental illness is that fear of hopelessness. Like, I have a meaningless future, or like there's nothing that is going to provide me happiness, or there's nothing that's going to provide me a full life in the future. But like, even I always say, like, my agent, Jeff Schwartz, I was going to press send, the following morning when I was going to expose, like, that I was dealing with these things. And he said, all right, I get it. Like, are you sure you want to do this? Because everybody's going to know about it. I'm like, yeah, whatever, Jeff, maybe. But he's like, okay, I get it. Like, if you can help just that next person, that's going to be big time. That's good, huge. I totally get it. So, did that, and like the community around it in the last 2 years, just diving into, this all-encompassing mental health, fight in America and across, like, the numbers continue to trend in an awful way in America. And with COVID-19 and everything that's going on in America now, it will continue to.
Mhm.
And mental health services, and it's not going to be funded well at all. It already wasn't. But no, I think it really makes me feel like life after basketball is going to be, have a chance to really make major impact. And while you said, like, McCourty brothers, and I don't feel like I've done enough to, like, deserve anything with, like, Muhammad Ali surrounding it. It's like, it's those type of names and the people that have won before. It's just like, okay, let me put in like 10, 20, 30 years of work in order to achieve that sort of thing. But it is obviously super humbling to be mentioned, even in the same breath as those guys doing great work, and everybody that's up for the award. But I think it's a really interesting space to absorb and to keep learning about. And I don't know, I love it. I find it fascinating. I really do. And I think that's what allows me to continue to learn about it too. Because if I wasn't, like, really, I'm like, oh, I have this thing and I'm dealing with it, like, I'll do it on my own terms. It makes me feel really good to give back. And I never knew that the thing that made me feel the worst would make me feel great giving back towards.
Yeah, that's powerful for sure. Kev, do you think that the anxiety can, you suffer can suffer so extreme from it is because you obviously do go through these very big highs? I mean, winning a championship, winning a gold medal, having all these fans call out your name. I mean, your highs are probably higher than most people can ever dream of. So then any deviation from that can be quite a drop. Do you understand what I mean? Like, how do you sort of manage with that's going on?
So I do actually. I think I said I was listening to this book by this guy called John Moe, funny name, and he has a podcast called The Hilarious World of Depression. He has a book that I read called The Hilarious World of Depression. I actually sent this, I think, same sentiment to Mike, because I made, again, big notes in my phone, right? And I had talked about that exact thing. Let me find it. I just wrote down, like, because my idea was like, I'm just going to achieve my way out of it. And I said, you can't achieve yourself out of this. You get used to a new version of normal. That novelty wears off, and you're left with the same brain you've always had. And that's when depression emerges from dormancy. Like, it's so true. And then my anxiety is something that, and Mike knows this too, like, it just lives even with medication as well. It's helped soften it. And I've with therapy, I've changed my relationship with it and everything that I do to kind of offset it. But it just lives in the pit of my stomach right now. Like, it's something that I have come to terms with will never fully go away. It just won't. Will there be something in the future that will do that for other people? I certainly hope so. But for me, I just am like, it's never gone away. It will never go away. And then as far as, the depression goes, yeah, I think that having those such immense, crazy highs and then coming back down to normal, like my expectations would be flawed or jaded, or I would my mind wasn't in the correct place in order for me to deal with it. And then I didn't want to share it with anybody. I didn't want anybody to know. I felt like I had to hide. And then I had my whole life, I feel like I've had like that imposter theory, right? Like I don't deserve any of this. Like if I think I suck, I must suck. Or if I have one bad game, it lasts, in my mind for 3 weeks as opposed to one good game. And the next day I have to do it again. So it's funny because in a lot of ways, it's allowed me to be where I am today and grow and use it to my advantage. But it's also my worst enemy as well. That's why I have, I'm going to be fully gray by the time I'm 35. But it's super, super complex. And I think that's a great question because people are just like, well, if I get to this next thing or I achieve this, or I get this, in any line of work, it's relative. Like I get this new car, I get this new promotion, it's like, it doesn't quite work like that if you don't do the work on yourself. Like those highs will be even, I think, have more substance if you take care of your brain prior. Like I look back, it's funny, like I won't even watch like game 7 of the finals when we won because I was in such a bad place. I'm like, I don't want to revisit it. I was in such a bad place. And there've been times in my life, people are like, oh, you wouldn't change a thing. I'm like, I would change things. Like, I wish I would have had the presence of mind earlier to deal with this. So my life could have been full of more happiness and joy and been, when I reached the pinnacle or reached the top, that I could have enjoyed it more. So, yeah, looking back, it can sometimes, I've allowed myself to be happy and have happy memories, but in my selective memory, typically is like when you're trying to go to sleep at night, when you're like, all right, I'm just going to go to sleep. And you think about like the last 10 years and the worst things that have happened to you during that time. That's kind of how my mind works because it's just the way it goes. But yeah, it's a really, I know it's all over the place, long-winded, that answer, but that's a super complex, thought that I've had and been trying to kind of wrestle with and figure out what makes the most sense, because I'm sure there's a ton of people that deal with it like that. And that imposter theory of like, I'm no good, or I'm a bad person, or I'm a fraud. Like, oh, these people are going to figure me out, but there's nothing to figure out. That's another thing. Sorry, I got to keep going here.
Keep going.
Kev,
this is fucking awesome. Keep going.
It was like when now I walk around, I'll say this. I used to go to, like, when I was young, I used to go to, let's say, like whatever chain restaurant. I'd go there and there'd be 6 people in there at lunchtime, right? And I was a great high school player at the time, but I'd go in there and I'd be like, they're gonna, am I doing something wrong? Or what if they take pictures of me and I say something, but like I was just being me, like good character, good person, like really super respectful to everybody that was working there. But I would just I would start sweating and get so worked up that like I was going to get found out, or somebody was going to, open up this, can of worms that was going to, make me a fraud, and I wasn't going to make it to the NBA. Like, this was the cycle in my brain that I was making up. And this self-talk and this imposter, I just couldn't get out of my own way. And it wasn't until and it's funny to say now, what I was going to say at the beginning is, now I walk around New York City like it doesn't matter. Like, and people in New York are great too, because they're just like, "What's up? Come to the Knicks, come to Brooklyn, whatever." But like I always wanted that anonymous feeling, or just be able to walk around. But now I'm like, okay, I'm not going to escape that. And with the mental health stuff, the profile likely will get bigger, and more people will want to talk to me. But like, I've allowed myself to be so much more comfortable in my own skin by like admitting who I am and what I deal with. And like, I'm very thankful for that. I just wish in hindsight, I would have had like I said, presence of mind to go to therapy earlier and deal with it and have, all of these things. But, it's easy to say that now. Hindsight's always 20/20, and connecting the dots, I mean, you can really only do that looking back. But it's, this is like, I could go hours and hours and hours talking about this, but it's actually pretty cool too, learning about it and seeing where you can help.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that you were mentioning about how this has mental health is sort of continuing to spiral out. I mean, you know, please feel free to put in your opinion, but I feel like anxiety is something that everybody experiences, because it's just it's part of the human experience, you know, and you get varying degrees of it for sure. But I mean, in general, I think it's something that everyone can certainly relate to. If you don't mind me asking, Kev, has it always been something you've suffered with, or has there been like certain events or a collection of events which sort of accumulated into creating sort of the anxiety? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think the anxiety is just always, I mean, there's varying levels, but as far as like I mentioned earlier, that pit of the stomach feeling is always there. Always there, always there, always there.
And from as long as you can remember, you grew up like this?
Yep. As far as I can remember looking back. And then the depression aspect, it's definitely varying degrees, because there's 100%, there's things that can set it off. And, you know, being from the Pacific Northwest, I think, you know, there's, you know, the seasons and it being rain and, you know, the seasonal affective disorder and always being dark, that just escalates it and puts it at a different level, even more than it would have been.
Sure.
So, and I think, you know, when you're in high school, it's so like nearsighted. You're not like looking, I mean, in some ways I was looking at basketball, but if like something happens, you know, it's the end of the world. Like that was also how I felt. But then there was some times where like, I don't know why I would go into 3 weeks of not being able to, you know, wanting to be quiet or staring at the ceiling in my room, or only come out when I was like with my absolute best friend or friends and basketball, and I had to go to school. But other than that, I would wall myself off and shut myself off from everybody. But as I think, you know, having that isolation and being by myself, I was like, I'm good by myself. But that was when I would run into the biggest problems. It was when my mind would just go down this slippery slope, and it could last months at a time, I feel like. And
sure.
Obviously some weeks worse, and in some cases way worse than others. But yeah, there's definitely moments in my life, whether it be relationships, family, you know, business, my profession, like different things that have set me off for sure. And those moments of like major depression, which is like over 2, 3, 4 weeks, have really, really took their toll. It was really between like the worst it got was like my 3rd and I think like 7th year in the league. Like that was prime, like, I mean, really, really serious bouts there. Like that was, yeah. And there was a number of things that, you know, manipulated that, and it was tough to come through.
I wonder how much, you know, and now in hindsight too, I wonder how much basketball was kind of your way of coping with that, and maybe, you know, being sort of very self-therapeutical and allowing yourself to almost lose yourself in it. And I wonder how much that drove you into becoming the fantastic player that you are today.
Yeah, I think I've talked to Mike about this too. Is like when I was young, especially my early 20s, I'd say my off season was harder, way harder than, and I mean this not in a good way. I mean, like I was putting in the work, but it was pound, and it was, yeah, definitely a form of therapy. Still is. That's why, like, when we finally opened up, you know, what am I trying to say here? Our courts and our
facility,
where we practice facility. Thank you. When we finally opened up our facility, it was so therapeutic to just even get into the gym and just shoot jumpers. Like it was so, because that's always been my safe space, and that's when I had a major moment, like, so public and on a court, like in my safe space at the arena at Quicken Loans Arena here, which is now Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. It was almost like it was ripped away from me. I couldn't go any place without, you know, having, you know, people, you know, are they going to out me? Are they going to be speaking about, you know, this event and what I'm dealing with? Are they going to, like, is it going to be public? Like, oh shit, this is my time. They're going to out me as a fraud or like something. And So basketball, yes, always been my safe space, always something that I could dive into. And in some ways, like early on, like I said, in my career, I was going so hard during the off season that, I would almost either burn out or it would take a toll on my body at some places through the season. So I've had to find ways to channel energy into like, therapy on and off the floor as well. Like just really give everything to my body and try to get the most out of it. Because, so long as I have this to get my mind off of things and get away from it and take care of my body, I can always go to the basketball court in order to do that.
So you've made a couple $100 million in your career, right? Your contracts, you had $100 million contract with the Cavs, and then you got $100+ million contract extension, not including whatever the hell you made as a 5th overall pick. Didn't it buy you happiness?
No. There's varying degrees of problems that come with that. I think it definitely helps. And I'm not saying it doesn't. It allows for, I guess, more freedom than you might otherwise have had. But it really doesn't. Like, I mean, Mike, we could talk at length about this, like the problems that it served me away from the floor. But I just like reinvesting it and putting it into my fund as well. I think is in that way. Yeah, the money has been fucking great, seeing the impact that it's had even in these early stages. But I always look at things in terms of, I think how money does buy happiness is it can buy you more time. And I mean that is like, time's not elastic. You can't stretch it. But in some ways, like if you have a major event, or I wish I would have had, looking back, like my grandma passing was a major moment in my life that I never dealt with. I never grieved, and set myself into a spiral a couple of years, later, and still like dealing with that. But if I just would have, spent the money to like fly private, that would have saved me. I would have had 5, 6, 7, 8 extra hours with my grandmother, like, before she passed, or like, allows you to, maneuver places like, where I have the most anxiety is airports, because I lose my control of like, I can't get out of this, or I'm fine with flying, but it's like being, in this little bubble with people that I don't know. And I've had bad experiences with like me sleeping and people taking photos of me while I'm doing that, or like, grabbing my bag and looking through my stuff. It's just like really, really odd things that, happen when you are a public figure. I think money sometimes allows you to just have a little bit extra time. But as far as like it being a commodity, I would take time over money, 100 times out of 100, because like you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. That's what I mean about it being elastic. Like that's the way it works. And yeah, I mean, I think as far as that achievement feeling, like, oh, I got this big contract, and I talked a lot more about, especially when I signed that last extension, which was 4 years, I talked way more about this, and you were around that, was or you had listened to that, Mike, was that, I'm more worried about getting to like 15 years in the NBA or 20 years in the NBA than I am that, oh, I've made this much money, or this much money out of it. Like it's something that comes along and you consider it, but I'm like, okay, how do I make it to year 16? How do I make it to year 17? What do I need to do that? It's just a never ending process that I'm obsessed with. And I love, like, that process is always better and means more to me than the actual like end goal. It's almost, there's a study on happiness, Mike, we've talked about this. Like when you're a little kid, after Thanksgiving happens, all you're thinking about is Christmas. So every day you have this hit of like, adrenaline, endorphins, dopamine, everything, right? Like leading up to Christmas Day. And what, you're going to have a meal, you're going to open presents. That's like, okay, the meal's an hour, the presents take 20 minutes. I was a shit kid, so I just ripped up everything. So like all those days leading up to that event, are so meaningful and mean so much. And like, oh, then you go on Christmas break, then like the day comes and yeah, it's joyful. It's great. But I'll take the accumulation of all those other days over that little spike that I had. And that's how I've learned to think about my life, is just to fall in love with the process. The process is the most fun, the best thing out of it. It's like when we see results in the gym, it's like, that's why we put in the work. That's why we put in the work. So that you go out there, you do your work early, and you go out there and perform. Like, it will give it back to you. And that's why, that's truly why I love the game.
So, go, Brooke, go.
No, go. I was just gonna say, it's nice to hear guys, in your sort of status always saying, the journey to the top is better than being at the top.
Yeah.
And, one other thing that I got told once from someone very fantastic, in my opinion, was that money just amplifies. So if Kev was starting from a place of anxiety and imposter syndrome, when you get $100 million, you think, I'm a really big fucking imposter now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good way. That's definitely, yeah, it's a good way of putting it. It's funny, like, these are why I love having these conversations too, is because even with people who, other than the people who are like, well, just get over it. And it's like, okay, well, you've never dealt with anything to it. But like, people that are really interested or see things in a different way, or from different walks of life, or, we're starting to work with at my fund a lot of like underprivileged, underserviced communities that aren't, that are dealing with already, so many discrepancies, whether it come to, health reform, and like making sure that they're taken care of and having pre-existing health conditions. Like, okay, so that's going to affect their mental health in a big way as well. But like that, I think that hearing that from them and that entire process is for me, is really like fun to see, and seeing where we can help. And that's what I mean about the money aspect too, is like, yeah, in some ways it's like, okay, yeah, money can make you happy. Sometimes you just have to give it away. But like, I see when you see what comes out of it on the other side, and like I said, even in this short amount of time, it's really cool. It's really, really cool.
So one thing that I actually love about anxiety, and my anxiety, is it keeps me on my fucking toes, and it keeps me hungry, and it keeps me wanting to fucking achieve more. So you even said one of my best and worst qualities is the fact that I'm meticulous, and I have to know.
Yeah.
I flat out have to know the right answer to this. And that's my curiosity. That's my natural curiosity of wanting to understand things, but it's also like part of my fucking psychosis, where no, I flat out need to know this answer. And if I don't know this right, like if I don't get this right to the best of my ability, I have no business giving this information. I have no business charging someone for this type of information. It is my responsibility, if I don't know, to find someone that knows, and to find someone that can help me make this job that much better, because that's why I am who I am. Otherwise, I am an imposter, because I suffer from imposter syndrome too. Like, for so many years, people have been asking me, Mike, since I started a gym, people have been telling me to start a podcast. Since I opened my own gym, people are like, start a podcast. I said, no, I don't know enough. People have been wanting me to lecture. I've been asked to lecture all over the world. What the hell am I going to lecture about? I feel like I'm the world's biggest fucking imposter. So that resonates with me. That being said, my anxiety, that's what drives me. And some of the most successful people I have ever met do not sleep. And it's not, oh, money don't sleep, nothing. No, these motherfuckers wish they could sleep. They don't sleep. They wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Why? They're just thinking, hey, they got to start the day. It's a compulsive behavior. They're constantly fucking hungry. And what are they hungry for? These guys are already worth $1 billion. Are they trying to make 2 billion? Who knows? Whatever's driving them is driving them, and money isn't the reason. Because right now I'm taking 31 hours worth of classes a week, and I'm working over 40 hours a week, right? Well, Vicky, my girlfriend's like, this is just who you are. And I said, no. Once I'm done with school, things will calm down. She said, no, those 31 hours are just going to go to something else, because that's who you are. right? I have 40 hours of work a week. I have 31 hours of class a week. And then I decided to fill up some leftover time with doing a podcast twice a week, right? So it doesn't matter what amount of time I have, I'm going to fill it. Why? It's who I am. That's part of my anxiety. That's part of my shit. So, dude, this is, I mean, as bad as it is for us, remember Lincoln's Melancholy? We read Lincoln's Melancholy last.
I was just going to say that too. Like, it drove him into amazing, amazing things. That book is great because it's data. It's, you know, the science and the data, but it's also, you know, it tells an amazing story of one of the most, like, yes, polarizing, but like great people in American history, and one of our great presidents in American history, and what he really dealt with on a daily basis and how it drove him into these great things. But I think also too, for me and for a lot of people that, you know, deal with, you know, the anxiety or depression, and they can get a lot out of themselves, is because, like, I said this in this commencement speech that I did, speaking of imposter theory, but we dangle that carrot, like, just outside of what we consider success. So we have to keep going. We have to keep going. We have to keep just squeezing whatever we can out of that lemon. Like, we have to continue to have forward progress. And if I don't have a day where I don't feel like I've done that, I will feel like an imposter. I'll have even more anxiety. It's a slippery slope for me. So, like, I always just put it right outside of what I consider success. It wasn't until like a year ago, maybe, or 18 months ago, where I was finally like, okay, you've done some good things. Like, it is taking me that long to give myself any bit of credit. And still I disregard and play down anything that I've done. And it's going to be the same thing when it comes to, you know, the Kevin, like what I'm doing in mental health or any business. Cause I always feel like it can be more. We could do more. We can affect more. We can create more change. Like, I can score better here. I can just, even the little things, all the micro things, all the way up to the biggest things, the things that matter most in life. It's just a never ending process.
And I think it's so important because that's how we evolve, and that's how we continue to keep getting better. But I mean, it's just the acceptance that every quality about your personality, there's a blessing and a curse to it. It's just the way you frame it, right? Like, Mike, me and you, we did the Big Five personality test, right? We're basically the same, apart from one, neuroticism.
And
I'm
withdrawal.
like second, and withdrawal. I'm at like second percentile, and Mike is up all the way up the other end, right?
Really?
Right? But there's a blessing and a curse to both of that. It's not only good, right? On both sides of the spectrum, you know, and it's just the way you got to frame it. And I think just accepting that, I mean, Kev, right? You've had terrible times, no doubt. They come, they rose, they passed away. You've had the best times in your life. They come, they rose, they passed away. It's always moving. And I think the struggle is always when you feel like you're stuck and you lose, like your mind plays the trick on you, like this is not going to end. I think that's then the key, right? And sort of understanding that it is going to pass. It's just literally just a matter of time. What's been the sort of gems through all of the different therapy that you've done, or from your own reading, or from just your own wisdom that you've learned through your life, that, you know, sort of keep you going and keep you at bay, and, you know, just keep you progressing in life? What have been the little snippets?
The best thing for me, you know, it's funny, like you think of like Robert E. Greene, like 48 Laws of Power, and never say more than necessary, and like what, you know, but I'm like, for me, in terms in this area of my life, I always say, like, you can't heal what you don't reveal, and what you never reveal, you just, that's there's no healing process in that. And for me, like, living my life outwardly and being like, hey, this is what you guys deal with, that's allowed me to be like, you know, here we are cursing, like, fuck it. Like, this is just what you get. And that's allowed me to be so much more comfortable in my own skin. And that bigger sense of community, and knowing where the numbers are, and allowing for, you know, kind of, I was ready to fall on my own sword to help people. Like, I didn't know how the NBA was going to respond, my team, front office, like, was I going to get paid again? And fortunately, they, through and through, everybody really, really had my back, but it's allowed for, you mentioned that community, like in the NBA, you can scale up, you can, put out a message. And if you do a PSA to the tens of millions of people, maybe even hundreds of millions of people, and how many of those are kids? So like you think about when it comes to, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, anxiety, acute anxiety, depression, so on and so forth, like mental illness, like 50% are diagnosed by the age of 14 and 75% by the age of 24. And like 1 in 7 kids deal with, and like half of those kids, 1 in 7, I believe, kids have a mental health disorder, and half of them go untreated. So like the early intervention is so key, so key. So I think with that early intervention, just talking about it and feeling like you're a part of like the winning side of history, and like you're a part of something bigger than yourself, and you have this common enemy, I think it can like really, really unite people. You're seeing it with, COVID-19, how it's progressed, and people are continuing to take care of each other. And, with everything that's going on with race in America and inequality in America, like you see it everywhere. It's bringing everyone together. So like feeling like you have that common enemy, and we're going to need it, especially coming out of this, for multiple reasons. Like there's going to be so many, mental warfare and people dealing. I just read an article the other day. I think it was in, it wasn't in New York Times, but I'm trying to think where it was, but it was saying that 2/3 of Americans now are, 1/3 of Americans now are dealing with both anxiety and depression. Like 1/3. That's an insane number. How many millions of people? That's 100 million people, right? A little bit over, north of that. So it's just really, yeah, that's really, really crazy. But that's, I guess something that's really helped me in words that I've lived by is just to like, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't have to be a professional. It's just like if you keep something in for so long, it's going to be incredibly limiting. Like it's been so freeing for me to allow myself to continue to peel back layers and expose these things. And a lot of times you have blinders on and people see things differently, and it allows you to like absorb what could be more helpful for you. And I think that's helped me not only with my therapist, but some of my best friends as well, in order to say, what do you think of this idea? Or what, this is something that I've been dealing with for this time, or this was a huge moment in my life that sent me into a spiral. So like people have different ways of dealing with stuff, and sometimes it can be applicable to your life as well. So that's what I say to younger kids too, like you're so susceptible to change. And you're not alone, especially young men too. Like you're not alone, and you're allowed to be vulnerable. And that's not soft at all. Like I always tell people, like you think me dealing with this is like, first of all, it's not my choice, but like, oh, I'm soft. It's like, all right, let's get on the court then. Let's like I'm still the same me. I'm still the same guy that I said earlier that you're gonna say like, oh, God, I gotta play this guy tonight. Like I got my hands full. Like I'm still that guy. Like even more like evolved now. So that's, yeah, long-winded again, but my best piece of advice I could give.
Solid, man. For me, it's very much like there's a lot of similarities to like the hero's journey, like you going through all of this, you're triumphing through, challenge and everything of what you're being rewarded with, you're just giving back out. And, I don't know, it's really nice to see, because, your biggest difficulty is actually the thing that made you very, very special. And you're able to sort of diffuse it into others and help other people. And it's like, you're worthy enough to hold that big stone on your shoulders. You know what I mean? And you're doing a great job. And it's really a pleasure that, that we know each other. It was great we got to meet. I know Mike's super proud to be working with you. And thanks for everything that you're doing for everyone, man. It's great.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. And so we've definitely kept you long enough, but I want to end on this. So I pulled up my scores for the Big 5 personality traits. So agreeableness, I'm in the 50 percentile. For compassion, 93rd percentile. Politeness, 4th percentile.
Wait, say the last part
Oh
again.
shit, Sherlock.
Politeness, I'm in the 4th percentile.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I'm the guy that's like, hey, listen, you don't know him. He means well. Very direct. Like, yeah.
enthusiasm, 89th percentile. Assertiveness, 88th percentile. Neuroticism, 92nd percentile. Withdrawal, 91st percentile. Volatility, 89th percentile. Right? Like, holy fuck. Those are the three negative emotions right there. The neuroticism, like I'm terrified of shit that's going to happen. Withdrawal, like the anticipatory anxiety, and then the volatility. Once the shit happens, man, I get fucking hammered, right? Like, talk about a whirlwind. But I mean, those are our personality traits. Kev, I would bet the house that yours would come out something similar to that.
Yeah.
And look at you and what you fucking accomplished and what you're going to continue to accomplish. So it's like, yeah, the mental health is like, these are characteristics. These are traits, right? We just need to learn. And that's what the coping strategies are, right? How can we channel this to become like,
I exactly say the same thing. How can you channel it?
yeah,
100%.
nope. Like, what's your goal? My goal is to become a motherfucker. Like, I want to know everything, right? Like, how am I going to utilize this to know as much as I possibly can?
Oh, it's a weapon too. Like, and I think that's why I love that that's part of your curiosity too, being your weapon too, is like you do the acupuncture in order to just add another weapon in order to help your clientele or help that athlete or get, really fascinated in, these different channels on my body, or this is what I'm dealing with. Well, like, let's try and manipulate this and help you this way. So like, we have the stretches, we have the table work, we have, the contrast, we have the oxygen, we have, we do varying degrees of like, heat, right? Like we use the dry sauna, try to get it as hot as we can. And we maneuver that every time we're in New York, right? But we just have so many different ways that we work together. But I think you continuing to grow and get results, right? Like, it's the personality thing. If people take the time to know one another, like, everybody's different in their own right. Like, I wouldn't say polar opposites, but we're pretty different. Grew up in different areas or whatever, but it works because we both, it starts at respect, but we both are incredibly curious and like, when we're all in, we're all in. But I think that's great. That's what people are paying you for too, is like, hey, I don't, I want to learn. I want to be better. I want to, my body to last. Like, you have to know, you have to have your own genius. And that's why you're in the line of work you're in. And you hunger and love and thirst for like that right answer. Like, you have to be right. Sometimes you're, a little much, but that's why we love you, Mikey. But then the fact that you have to be right, like, you're like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna, I gotta fact check that. I'm not so sure about that. 2 days later, 24 hours, 48 hours later, come back and say, hey, you know what? I was wrong. Let me break it down for you. I was like, dude, I don't even remember that. Like, that was even wrong, or that was a fact. He goes, yeah, I just had to get it right. It typically happens when we're post-workout and we're doing our recovery, or we're like, in the sauna, again, that heat response. But that's when we have to do a lot of fact checking, because that's when we have our best conversation.
Right on. So let's end it on that, Kevin. We love you. Thank you.
Yeah, Kev.
Wait, dude, I know how busy you are. I know how slammed you are. We are so honored to have you on, bro. It means the world to us. Thank you so much, brother.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Good to see you, man. Take care, Kev.